Hello and welcome to another press conference roundup from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Today I'm joined by sound only, not visuals, by Neale to look over the latest lineup and injury news ahead of Game Week 29. Now Neale's camera isn't working, but his voice is. So Neale, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, nice to see you, Joe. Even if you can't see me.
No,
The viewers complained that I was too grotesque for video footage, so it's just my voice today.
They've spoken. We've delivered. There we go. Okay, well, let's move on to the fixtures. And I want to start with Manchester City, who travelled to Bournemouth. And I understand there's been a key development in attack that could impact on Aguero owners. What has Pep been saying?
Yeah, this is not good if you own Aguero. There's always a slight risk he might get rested tomorrow anyway. Possibly that Sterling could come back in and play as a false nine. But he's confirmed in the last hour that Gabriel Jesus is back in training and available for selection. So a couple of days earlier, after the win in midweek against West Ham, he'd said that we can't get Jesus back quickly enough because Aguero was exhausted. In his words, that he played 120 minutes against Chelsea in the FPL Cup final and then 85 in midweek. And Guardiola said he's looking knackered towards the end of that second appearance. So, yeah, it doesn't look good if you're banking on Aguero starting tomorrow. I mean, he still might feature. He could come off the bench and do some damage against a defence as bad as Bournemouth's. But, I wouldn't hold my hopes out if I was expecting to start.
No. Now, I am a new Aguero owner. I'm obviously delighted with his 9 points last week, but it's going to cost me. It's going to cost me this week. My only hope, and hopefully I'm speaking for other Aguero owners, you got to play him. Don't captain him, because I think there's a good chance he won't start. He could come on for the last 20 minutes or so. That is entirely possible. In which case, I'm more than happy to take a 20-minute Aguero over many other players, but do make sure that you have your bench order in good place. Your first sub may be needed if you are an Aguero owner there. So Laporte's out as well, Canadinho as well. They did okay at the week midweek without them, but still wasn't convincing. Do we think that's going to impact on their ability to do well against Bournemouth?
Yeah, possibly. I think we saw Fernandinho was briefly missing in December, wasn't it? He was absent for 2 game weeks, and City really struggled. They've lost both games. Now, West Ham didn't really pose any kind of attacking threat on Wednesday, so we don't know if Laporte and Fernandinho will be missed. I expect Bournemouth might have more of a go this weekend. Those 2 players are both going to be out until after the international break. They do have Stones back in training, so he may come into contention. And Delph is also back in training as well, but he won't be part of the matchday squad this weekend. So, we've often stressed before how important Fernandinho is to not just in a defensive sense, but how much he sort of influences the attacking play as well. So this might be more of an acid test, I think, at the vitality on Saturday than what we saw in midweek.
Yes, so let's turn to Manchester United next. I think they also have a really good home fixture, a good fixture rather. This one against Southampton. Now, I understand, unusually, Solskjaer for Premier League managers has been very forthcoming with perhaps who he may start. So what's he been saying?
Yeah, so Rashford, who made a fairly miraculous recovery really for Wednesday night. He was on the bench and came on as a late substitute. Solskjaer said he's fully fit and he's probably going to start him against Southampton, which is a great fixture. Solskjaer also went on to say that the PSG game, which is on Wednesday night, it's the second leg of the Champions League tie, won't enter his thinking. Now, that did influence his selection the last time round. It was away at Fulham when Rashford was benched. So it sounds positive if you're a Rashford owner, and obviously if you're a Pogba owner, he's suspended for that game anyway against PSG. So we might see both of those players lining up tomorrow.
Okay, so this sounds good. I'm confident about Pogba. I'm going to be captaining Pogba. I do have that confidence he's going to do well and he's going to play as well. I like the look of Lukaku. I wonder if the front lineup could be Rashford, Lukaku, and Sanchez perhaps. if it were to be the case, I don't know whether that's something you're predicting as well, but would Rashford play in the middle or would Lukaku?
That's exactly what I've predicted. Yeah, those front three,
Okay.
and I've so far I've put down Rashford as a central striker. So Lukaku's in the past couple of weeks he's moved out to the right flank. Arguably looked more effective there until Palace in midweek when he scored twice.
Yes.
Which is will enter into Solskjaer's thoughts, I'm sure. I think the fact that it's at home and that, I think I would expect him to name a three-man attacking front line rather than go for a 4-4-2 diamond or anything like that. I would expect Rashford to play. Where we're not entirely sure, but I am predicting a central role with Lukaku perhaps out on the right flank.
Okay. I just the take home for me for that is Solskjaer is a manager to monitor for giving very detailed answers and the kinds of things that fantasy managers want to know as well. It's almost as if yourself or David were in the press conference. It's so forthcoming. Now, ahead of Palace's trip to Burnley, there was some positive news from Roy Hodgson, I believe, for the 25% of FPL managers with Wan-Bissaka in their side. What has Roy been saying?
Yeah, you were talking about bench order before and getting your substitutes right. Well, he's a well-owned bench. What could you call him? Bench fodder. He's a bit better than that.
Oh, he's very good. Yeah, very pricey bench fodder. Pricey
one of the
in I suppose if he was a movie, it wouldn't be a commercial success, but he'd be very critically acclaimed.
Yeah, sort of a low budget, just flying under the radar, wins like a Cannes Award or something like that.
Yeah, Roy's kind of indie auteur.
Yeah, well, anyway, he's back.
Good.
He's back and available for selection. So, he's been missing for a couple of weeks with a hamstring problem. But he looks like he's going to be in contention this weekend, probably coming in for Joe Ward at right back. Though Palace are missing Sakho, who is quite a big part of that stability in the back line. I think they look a much better defensive unit when they've got that first choice back four available. Not quite as secure perhaps when Dan or Kelly are playing there, but the good news is that Wan-Bissaka is fit and available.
Okay, so good news for Wan-Bissaka owners and fans of Palace as well. But I believe there's bad news for the 1 in 10 FPL managers that own Patricio ahead of Wolves' hosting of Cardiff. What's Nuno been saying?
Yeah, this was another ball out of the blue, and this isn't really injury related. It's not often you get a Premier League manager naming any of his starting 11 before the game. But Sando has done just that. He's going to play John Ruddy at home to Cardiff tomorrow with one eye on building up his match fitness ahead of the FA Cup quarter-final in a couple of weeks. So Ruddy's been the goalkeeper of choice in the cup games. And he's obviously prioritising the cup. Wolves are 7th or 8th, something like that. They're not going to get relegated. They're not going to probably challenge for top 6. So he's obviously got his priorities in mind for the rest of the season, which is perhaps something to consider if you're owning Jimenez and Doherty in the weeks and months ahead. If he's planning to chop and change and spare some players for the cup games ahead if they progress beyond the quarterfinals, of course.
Yeah, I mean that does strike me. That could be a slight worry. We have seen Jimenez and Doherty benched before when fixtures congestion starts arising. I'm slightly worried now. Let's hope for the best though. But definitely, we know something about Patricio though, so that's
exactly
At least we have
there.
Yep. Okay. Turning to Liverpool, a derby visit to Everton. It should be a goal fest, I would say, for Klopp's troops. It should be, and that's because over the last 6 home matches, no side has conceded more shots or close-range efforts than Marco Silva's side. Only Cardiff have conceded more at home over that time frame. Wow, that sounds great. But will Firmino start? He obviously they did well without him as well, but he's still central to their attacking play, particularly away from home. Yeah, How about Firmino?
Yeah, he's back. He's closer to featuring than he was in midweek, so he's been out there running on the training ground. And Klopp says they're going to have to assess him that it looks really good in his words, but he doesn't know for certain whether he's going to be ready for the Merseyside derby. So yeah, there's still sufficient doubt to warrant a flag, I think, in FPL. I mean, you could argue that they didn't miss him in midweek. They argue he looked a better balanced team without Firmino there. Certainly without Firmino of late, who hasn't been firing on all cylinders. Obviously, there's no doubt that when he's on form, he's a really essential asset. But yeah, Mane looked really good as a central striker, and then Salah was more of a threat down that right flank, I thought. So he maybe doesn't have to rush Firmino back, although it is, of course, the magnitude of the fixture. You'd probably give him every chance to be available, and it's obviously on Sunday. It's the last game of game week 29 as well. So
I do remember. I do remember that when Klopp took charge of Liverpool in one of his first Merseyside derbies, he used that to rest some players.
Yes,
do you remember? And it really cost him. And in fact, it cost him quite dearly. He decided to rest a lot of players against the likes of Swansea, who beat them. And he seems to have learned from that. So I'm personally not anticipating a lot of rotation here. But do you think there could be? I mean, are you with my school of thought there?
Yeah, I do. I am. And Klopp was asked about this because he made changes in midweek. There was a Sunday, Wednesday turnaround, which is, as he said, is the sort of most brutal in the Premier League without it being Christmas. Now they've got an extra day's recovery this time. The game not being played till Sunday. He says it's not a given that he will freshen things up. So I would definitely not expect to see wholesale changes, particularly as Liverpool haven't got a game in the Champions League in midweek. That's the following week, I believe, against Bayern. So they've got another week after this derby to recover. So it'll be a strong team, I think.
Okay, and of course it's derby weekend in London as well, in North London specifically. Spurs and Arsenal. It's taking place at Wembley. So let's start with Spurs. How are they shaping up ahead of this encounter?
Yeah, not much change really. Dele Alli's still going to be out. He's still progressing with rehab, and Eric Dyer as well. Spurs always put these really wordy medical bulletins out where they say stuff like Eric Dyer's building up conditioning, but he's had tonsillitis, so I'm not sure what that means. Vertonghen and Harry Winks, who have both got hip injuries, they are going to be assessed. So they're the only sort of minor injury doubts. But otherwise, as far as we know, the likes of Kane, Eriksson, Son are all okay to feature. In the lunchtime kickoff tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And what about Arsenal as well? Now they've perennially got injury problems, particularly in defence. So any issues we should be aware of there?
Koscielny and Lichtsteiner were there only two minor doubts. They're both back in full training, and Emery's just said in his press conference that everyone's well. So that's reassuring from their perspective. I think there might have been a few people slightly worried about Kolasinac as well. In midweek, he came off, I think, after about 57 minutes. And he'd been sort of half struggling with a minor leg muscle injury, but Emery basically said that it was just resting him ahead of this week. He didn't want to take any chances. He could have continued if he wanted to, but they took him off. Didn't want to risk anything. So it sounds like he's going to be okay.
Okay, well, let's look at the rest of the fixtures then. Any other key injury lineup news we should be aware of?
Yes, West Ham. Arnautovic missed out in midweek with an illness. Now, Pellegrini had his press conference earlier on. He said that he's got 4 strikers who don't have injury. So we're assuming that means Arnautovic is fit and available. And he also went on to say that his team selection in midweek against Manchester City was made with this game in mind against Newcastle. So he rested players, so like Snodgrass and Noble, maybe even Hernandez. You might see them back in the starting 11 against the sort of more winnable match against Newcastle. Elsewhere.
Elsewhere. Now, Chelsea, for example, I don't think there's too many injuries, but has Sarri given any hints about any rotation, perhaps?
Yeah, another one to suggest that he will rotate. They're much like City. They had the 2-hour run out against in a cup final a week ago, played again in midweek. Yeah, Sarri's got what sounds like a fully fit squad, but he said he will make 3 or 4 changes. You'd expect the usual. Willian for Pedro, Kovacic for Barbie, But yeah, we'll look into that a bit in a bit more detail. You might see maybe even Alonso rotated with Emerson. That's become more of a commonplace occurrence over the last few weeks. But Hazard was taken off after an hour, I think, in midweek. So that maybe bodes well for his involvement.
He does like to go attacking, much more attacking against the weaker sides, which of course Fulham are. But do you think Higuain could even, Hazard as a? I don't think. Would you think he would play Hazard as some kind of false nine and have Pedro and Willian, or am I?
I don't think so. I think, as you say, he tends to do that. He's expressed his views before about Hazard as a false nine, saying that it gives him more defensive solidity.
Right. Okay.
And he's used that. Yeah, as you say, he's used that against Manchester City and some of the other big six sides. So I would think Higuain would start. Hazard has been complaining about tiredness in the past couple of days, but the fact that he did get half an hour's rest at the end of that win against Spurs in midweek, and they're playing on Sunday as well, I think that's
so those getting in Higuain, he's a very popular transfer in today. Ought to feel confident there. What about now the player I'm looking to get in, David Luiz? Is there any? I mean, I'm not saying no player's 100% guaranteed, but is it more likely that he'll be starting?
It's tough to say, really, because David Luiz has been rested once or twice before. They've got Andreas Christensen, who's the sort of third choice centre back. He's come in now and again, either for Rudiger or David Luiz. So I wouldn't rule that out completely, particularly as Sarri said that he's definitely going to make 3 or 4 changes. Hasn't specified which ones. So yeah, again, as you said earlier, with having your bench order ready, just make sure you've got someone ready to step in defence if Luiz doesn't turn out. But it's a West London derby. Would Sarri risk sort of newfound success in changing it over?
I'm gonna get him in anyway. I think it'll be good. No, I think you're right. I think it's possible Alonso owners could be worried there. What about Fulham as well? And also there's a few other kind of bit of injury updates from some of the other potentially relegated sides, Cardiff and Southampton. But let's start with Fulham. They've got a new manager, temporary one, Scott Parker. Has he got any issues apart from the fact his team's rubbish?
Apart from the fact he's managing Fulham. He's obviously most of the press conference was devoted to his new job and Ranieri's impact and things like that. But he did provide a brief update. Mawson's going to be out late April. Shirley's still struggling with a virus, and Bettinelli is the other one. He's the other one who's out. But apart from that, they're fully fit. It would be interesting to see what sort of system he plays. I'd be more confident about Chelsea assets if Ranieri was still there, but you might see some kind of reaction with Parker injury.
And Cardiff as well. Now, is it midfield? They hopefully a few people with Cambiasse on their bench. Will he play?
Yeah, Cambiasse. He's it looks more positive than it has done in the past fortnight. He's going to return to the squad, and Warnock said he'll talk to him this afternoon about whether he's ready to start. So it sounds like he's definitely going to be in the 18-man squad. And he's talked about how important he is from a creative sense, and they really miss him when he's not there. And the fact that he stressed that this mysterious private medical team that Camarasa has have basically given him the okay to play.
Ooh, that sounds mysterious.
Yeah. they've been sort of interfering with Cardiff's physios over the past couple of weeks and saying he's not quite ready to play. But
I like to think they're druids or something, but they're probably not. They're probably just private doctors.
Warnock doesn't like them, whoever they are. He's made a point of saying they're unwelcome presences at the moment. To be honest,
add them to the list. There's a whole bunch of people and things that Warnock doesn't like. But hard luck, Neale. You can grouch about it in the Championship next season. And what about Southampton as well? They look. I mean, I know it was only Fulham, but they look good against Fulham, particularly in defence. Kept Fulham at bay quite happily. How are they shaping up when they go to Manchester United?
Yeah, I think Yoshida makes a difference when he's back. He came back at midweek, and I think he'll kneel down a starting spot now. They're looking all right. Not much has changed. They've still got Ings and Lamina missing. Obafemi's out for the season, but apart from that, Nothing much to report.
Okay.
You might see a similar side to what they played in midweek. I think Aston Hull even said that himself. He's tempted to name a similar team rather than freshen things up. So, you might see Redmond continuing as a more advanced.
Okay. And just before we go, anything else we should mention? Or we covered it all?
Bournemouth. They might have Callum Wilson back.
Ooh, that is big news.
So Brooks came back a bit unexpectedly in midweek. He was on the bench. Howe said he might start this weekend. He's going to assess him. And Callum Wilson, Howe said was injury free, but he'll still need to assess him for match fitness ahead of Man City. So he might not risk him, but he's back. Yeah, just in time for Bournemouth's fixtures turning good as well after this week.
They turn good, and it's not just they turn good. They play in game weeks 31 and 33. I've definitely got my eye on a Bournemouth player. We've got Wilson, King, Brooks, Fraser, lots and lots of nice budget-friendly options there. So, I'll be getting my scouting cap and Mac on for that one. But for now, Neale, thanks so much for joining me, albeit just vocally. And in the meantime, good luck with the game week.
And to you, Joe. Good luck.